I'm Mark Koenigsberg, and we're talking Bitcoin again today on the 6th of March. And today's update is a good one and mostly regulatory. We're talking about the Indian Reserve Bank. They had a ban on Bitcoin, and that has been lifted, as was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of India. And we see a lot of positives following that, including exchanges resuming and a Bitcoin price rally. And we'll get a little bit more into what's happened and what it means. And just a quick update regarding OKX. I've received word officially from OKX. They've confirmed that OKX.VIP is one of their websites. It's an overflow and part of their traffic strategy that they're working on. So if you're on that site, that should be okay. I think the important lesson here is always be cautious and take care of yourself in the space. You don't want to be clicking on links that you aren't familiar with, and rather be cautious and wait a couple of days than risk getting scammed and losing what you've worked hard for. But back to India. So India's had a very tenuous relationship with Bitcoin over the last few years. And we've seen some interesting rulings come out and a lot of support and then pullback. And, it was clearly a situation where the country as a whole hadn't decided where it stood. There was a lot of investment put into Bitcoin, a lot of reasons why, the marriage between Bitcoin and India made sense, and a lot of support for it at a government level. And then we also saw some really strange things coming out from the Reserve Bank of India. So I think that this ruling is firstly incredibly positive for Bitcoin, but also allows a lot of Indians who are possibly standing on the sidelines to get on with it. To not worry now what may happen and actually focus their energy on building, building on top of Bitcoin and building on-ramps and, helping adoption in the Indian subcontinent. So if we just do a quick recap without going into too much detail, a few years ago already, we saw a lot of the Bitcoin-India relationship develop when India withdrew a lot of the notes from circulation. We saw the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes being recalled. They were no longer legal tender, and that sparked a push towards a society that understood the impact of cash and cash regulations. This fueled a lot of interest into Bitcoin and really saw a lot of people start asking the question of what a monetary system should look like in the subcontinent. And following that, we saw a lot of really great growth in terms of Indian exchanges and activities and development. And then about 2 years ago, the Reserve Bank of India came out and said that they were going to ban fiat to Bitcoin activities, and that transferring between the two was basically against the country's monetary policy. And there's been a court case which UnoCoin, the largest exchange in India, has been involved in for the last 2 years, and also two of its founders. And there've been a lot of parts to the trial and extra questions and amendments made questioning Bitcoin by various authorities as a result of the Reserve Bank's position. And in the meantime, the case was taken to the Supreme Court on the basis that it's unconstitutional, that Bitcoin is legal, it's legal tender, therefore the trade and exchange between the two is legal, and that the targeting of cryptocurrency exchanges or Bitcoin by the Reserve Bank is not actually something for the sake of India, but it's a protectionist measure for the Reserve Bank of India. Like super summary and simplified, and that's basically what's happened. And yesterday, we saw the Supreme Court of India rule that the Reserve Bank of India cannot stop the trading between fiat and Bitcoin, and that the on-ramps must be allowed, and that people can buy and sell, Bitcoin to rupee and rupee to Bitcoin, and that is really what the excitement's about. And this bodes exceptionally well for everyone that's involved in Bitcoin and everyone that's involved in India and for the market as a whole. And we saw the price rally since the news. We've seen a good few $100 recovery, like 5% or more in the last day on the back of the Reserve Bank news. But more importantly than that, we've seen Indian business resume Bitcoin activity. UnoCoin, WasirX, a whole bunch of other exchanges are back on and happily accepting fiat deposits into their exchanges within hours of the ruling. And this is really not even a full week that we've seen the effect of the ruling. People are talking in forums and private groups that this really paves the way for India to embrace Bitcoin. Also on a national level and a development and infrastructure level, but also for the average individual. This is a message from the government of India that Bitcoin is legal, Bitcoin is okay, that you can buy it, that you can use it, and that it can be compared from a money perspective to the rupee. So this is really a huge green flag for a lot of average people who don't understand what Bitcoin is. And from what I hear and what I suspect is a lot of people that have really great applications. India is an incredibly high-tech nation, very entrepreneurial, and there have been a lot of people that have been sitting on the sidelines. Do I really want to get involved in a space that may be tenuous, that may be regarded as illegal from a tender perspective, or that may have these incredible, governmental roadblocks from a regulatory perspective? And the Supreme Court's ruling basically says, don't worry, everything's okay. And I suspect that other than, some rallying on the Bitcoin price and, a lot of people really happy and, some really important and well-built Indian businesses being able to resume, I suspect that this will really fuel a large area of Indian development into Bitcoin and blockchain tech and cryptocurrencies over the next months as some really, really talented people in the subcontinent understand that they can now pursue their passion, safely and with a future in a way that's for the common good of the Indian people. And India is a great example of a country that stands to benefit from Bitcoin adoption. And with over 1 billion people, incredibly populous, very high levels of technology, but also very high levels of poverty. A lot of grassroots communication lead to product adoption, and the ability for something to really go mainstream very, very quickly. Bitcoin represents an incredibly large opportunity for India and for people and businesses there. And any technology that's really embraced by India and Indians bring the expertise to it and help it to get attention and to improve things like onboarding really benefits the entire Bitcoin ecosystem. And I suspect we'll see the knock-on effect of this over the year as Indian development starts to fuel more and more mainstream global Bitcoin adoption, and we see more and more Indian businesses in the news on mainstream media talking about their Bitcoin developments. So again, price, Bitcoin is trading around $9,100 at the time of recording this, up from about 85, 86 for the last week. And the news of the day is the Indian Supreme Court has ruled that the Reserve Bank of India's position was unconstitutional and they cannot target or prohibit Bitcoin trading or purchasing or selling, which means it's all full steam ahead for Bitcoin in India and time to get back to building. So you've been watching me, Mark Koenigsberg. Please subscribe to my channel on YouTube and follow me on Twitter and comments. I've been loving the comments on the last few videos we've done, having some great discussions with you guys. Please feel free to share your thoughts and share this video as much as possible. This is the type of video that is incredibly good for the average person to see. Hearing that governments rule that Bitcoin is legal and tender and can be traded and that it's unconstitutional to stop it or prohibit it are ways will help educate and stop the hating on Bitcoin that is unnecessary. So I'm Mark Koenigsberg. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, have a great weekend and learn about Bitcoin.